So they know what the expectations are. And the expectations are, even though they try to admit that they don't hear it, the expectations are to win every stinking game.
Hey, everybody, and what's becoming an all too familiar Monday morning here on Birds 365 after the Philadelphia Eagles have won another football game. They moved to 3-0 in the year after a crazy comeback victory over the LA Rams yesterday. They win it 33-26 on a Jordan Davis walk-off field goal block and return. The offense came alive in the second half. We're going to talk about it all here today on Birds 365. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Monday morning, brother?
I'm doing well. Not as well as Jordan Davis, but boy, he was cooking, man.
Yeah, man, he had an incredible game yesterday.
What an amazing athlete, man. He clocked in at 18.59 miles per hour, the fastest ever for anybody over 330 pounds in the next gen stats era.
Yeah, was that on the return, or was that on the chase down of Stafford?
The return. But to your point about the chase down of Stafford, that was also amazing because, and Matthew's 37, but I mean, he can still move a little bit, and he had an easy angle for a first down. And here comes Jordan Davis. He did that to Josh Allen, if you remember in public. Josh Allen, chase, and that's when he wasn't in shape. He's an amazing, just pure athlete for his size, but. Yeah, I mean, exciting win. Walk-off field goal. I think that's the first walk-off field goal I've ever seen, with a touchdown on top of it. Obviously, they win the game just from the block. I've seen that kind of stuff in the past, but to walk it off with a touchdown, I can't think of anything. I haven't researched it, but in my mind, so obviously it's very exciting. But, I mean, you can't keep playing like this. You're living on the edge. And I know people get mad at us for talking about it and blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's not a foundation to win what they want to win. And obviously their standard is much higher than it's typically been because they've won 19 of 20 games and 17 consecutive when the quarterback starts and finishes, all that good stuff. But he can't. I mean, at one time, the field goal block's going to be on the other side, or the drop. The drop pass is going to be on your side. Probably not with AJ. It's and you've seen it in the past with Saquon in Atlanta last year. I mean, that's one drop. That's like a boom, and you go from sure win to basically loss. That's you're living on that edge, but not on the positive side. And they don't need to. That's the crazy part. And I was talking to you before the show started, and AJ Brown is so misunderstood because I think everybody lumps wide receivers into the same group, and they're just a bunch of me. I want the football, and they all want the football. That part of it's true, but he's a very cerebral player. So he took the moment where he knows everybody's happy and everybody's thrilled and everybody's excited about that kind of exciting win that they've never seen before. And he brings up the point that we got a bunch of killers on this team. We got so many good players on this team. We should not be playing the way we play so conservatively. And I think he took the moment to open people's eyes, and I think they should be open.
Yeah. Absolutely, John. Look, it's one of the things that we talk about on this show, and not everybody likes when we talk about it because they win football games, but you clearly saw what the team is capable of. And A.J. Brown made comments. Jalen Hurts made a comment in his post-game press conference. Now, I asked you on the post-game show, John, is this circumstantial or are they going back to the way they play? And you insinuated you thought they were going to go back to the way you play. After sitting on it, after listening to the players and what they had to say, it's clear that they want more out of their own offense. Do you think they try and play more like this moving forward? Get your killers involved, as A.J. Brown said, because I think it's a no-brainer, John. I understand that we're winning, and I'm not going to nitpick too hard because you won 19 of 20 games in the NFL. That's a hard thing to do. But this team's got some players, man. This team has real players that can make big-time plays consistently. Do you think they change, and do you think that second half will open them up moving forward here in the 2025 season?
No, I don't, because one of the main issues, the main issue in the first half was they couldn't run the football, and they haven't run the football effectively basically in the first 3 games. Saquon's numbers, which I can give you, are 58 for 194, 3.3 yards per carry. If they're up at their normal standard in the run game, the game's not out of reach at halftime. It might be ugly, but it's not out of reach. And turns out it wasn't out of reach anyway. Even
I'm
though,
of the belief that running game's never going to be uber effective until they show that they have a threat through the air, and they did that yesterday in the second half. So I don't know. Am I overstating that? It feels to me like, how can Saquon get going if the passing game wasn't, in the first 2.5 games of the year, the passing game really wasn't effective or dangerous for an opposing defense? It becomes a lot harder to take away Saquon, or a lot easier to take away Saquon Barkley when that threat doesn't exist. That's why I think the balance that will come will also improve what Saquon's able to do.
well, I don't think that changes the philosophy of opponents, because they weren't under the auspices that they can't throw the ball. They were, I don't think they have that sort of, they know AJ Brown's out there. They know Devontae Smith. They know Dallas got him being back was a big part of it as well. They know they're out there. They're not dismissing their ability to gouge them at any time. I mean, they're well aware.
Right, but if
Of
there's
the
less
threat.
of a threat or less of a consistency in using those weapons, then you can focus in more on other things defensively. I think that's
Yeah, I don't buy that, because if you look at Dallas's plan, which I think ironically was very good, but they haven't been able to carry that over to other teams at all. They still they did what they did to bottle in Saquon, but they also bracketed AJ the whole game basically. So yeah, I think the teams around the league are very cognizant at all times of how quickly, and that's what the Eagles were able to show. But this is, again, I brought it up on the pregame show, the halftime show, the postgame show. This is not new. This is exactly what happened last year. The bad game, good game. Bad game, good game. Yeah, and
they win them all.
I'm
They win them
talking,
all, whether they play good or bad.
yeah.
They win them
Well,
all.
I'm talking bad game, from a passing
Yeah,
perspective.
no, I know.
Bad game, good game, bad. Now, a lot of the bad games last year in the passing game were, again, blocked off by the tremendous running game. That's been the part that's missing from last year's formula. Not this is normal, the way they do it from the passing perspective. It's exactly like last season. The difference is the running game, which was so effective basically almost at all times, not every game, but almost. And this year it's just been ineffective for a number of reasons. But it's been ineffective. So I don't know if they look at it. And again, they turned it over. They finally turned it over. But when did they turn it over? When they're dropping back to pass, and here comes Jared Verse screaming in, and they don't have their right tackle, and bang, it's a turnover. And that's at the point where I said, at halftime, I'm like, all right, I was of the assess at halftime, as I told you, like, the Rams wasted too many opportunities. I'm thinking the Eagles are still in this game.
I tweeted that out. 4 field goals, John, in the first half of the Rams.
And there were some layups that Stafford's like first or second pass of the game. Jalen Carter was bearing down. I don't think he was the same the rest of the game. He was sped up. That's what I was taught. You got to speed him up. He's missing these throws he makes into sleep. And they're settling for field goals. And I thought to myself, the Eagles are going to come back and win this game. Now, when that strip sack happened, wasn't strip, but he got fumbled. And they scored right away. Then I thought, oh, well, this is probably not the Eagles' day. And turns out they just flip the switch and bang. That first touchdown drive was so quick. You had the big play to AJ. And I said, well, go route. There you go. Throw, go route. And then Dallas down the seam, bang,
That was a
touchdown.
pretty ball, too. Yeah, that was a pretty play there.
And so, look, they can do it, but, you know, they're very conservative. And Nick got asked the question because AJ said it. And they know they're conservative. But, you know.
To me, it doesn't seem like the players want to be conservative. It doesn't. Jalen Hurts talked about it. AJ Brown talked about it.
The quarterback, it's the same as last year. The quarterback doesn't want to be conservative. The receivers want the football. They don't want to be conservative.
Well, I think they're right in that they don't have to be. I understand the Eagles have this philosophy, and it is tough to argue with. But I think there is a perfect world that exists that maybe it's hard to reach, but you can play smart football and still get your playmakers involved. I don't think it has to be so black and white. Okay, if we want to be conservative or we don't want to turn the football over, we don't need to use AJ Brown. I don't think that's the way to look at it. I really don't.
I don't think that's the way they look at it. They don't have to use AJ Brown, but they look at it that, and I tried to get Nick to talk about it as much as possible. The circumstance, the personality of games solves some issues to the point where, all right, instead of 1,500 yards, they might get when Miles Sanders was the running back, it might be 1,200 yards. He's still going to get his because there's still going to be games like this where he's making plays, and I think that's suitable enough for him. But you don't get the 39-8 coming into that game, and that was the takeaway giveaway ratio over 18 of 19 wins. You don't get that way by being, we'll just throw it around the lot. I mean, they're very hyper focused on not turning it over, and I get it. But that baked into that is the smaller margin of error, and baked into that is some ugly football. You know, but and that part of it I get because it's not about pretty aesthetic football to them. It's about winning and getting the hell out of there. Their expectations, man, and you saw it. Hey, everybody's thrilled today. You guys who were there were booing the shit out of this team because they had a bad half of football. And you can do whatever you want. You're paying for the tickets, and they're very expensive and all that kind of stuff, and all the and there's nothing wrong with having high standards, but they can't even build up a benefit of doubt to get through 30 minutes of football. I mean, so they know what the expectations are. And the expectations are, even though they try to admit that they don't hear it, the expectations are to win every stinking game. And what comes with that is a lot of freaking pressure. That's just part of it. Now,
pressure is a privilege, Johnny Mac.
Yeah, I mean, they don't want to be a team that can't win every game. So I mean, they want the same. But I'm saying it exists.
All right, let's talk about the second half, though, because I don't want to get too in the weeds. We can talk about this on Tuesday, Wednesday, all the things that they're going to do moving forward. I do want to talk about kind of what they did in the second half. I mean, I'm sure you knew they were capable of that, but that did look good, man. That looked like a team that could do that consistently. Now, I know you don't think that they will do that consistently, but it almost looked like Jalen Hurts started taking some reins. He was in the grills of coaches over on the sideline. You saw that video go viral on social media, and they come out and they start firing and they start clicking on all cylinders. In the passing game, defensively was obviously impressive as well. Only gave up that one touchdown in the second half, where it was the one play off the bootleg play action for Stafford after the turnover. But it was total domination in the second half, John, and they did it through the air. They did it getting their playmakers involved. A.J. Brown, I mean, I don't think anybody forgot, but yeah, he's still a top 5 receiver in football. I mean, that dude is a man amongst boys when he catches the ball on the outside in man coverage. What you think of what they were able to do offensively, John, in that second half, and defensively?
Yeah, well, when you're behind, what was it, 26-7?
Yep.
Well, the running game's off the table. So guess what's next? Yeah, to me, it's perfectly obvious. The circumstance of the game demanded they throw the football, and they have better players than the Rams have, especially when you talk about playmakers, receivers versus secondary. So it doesn't surprise me at all that they were effective. The key is creating the balance of getting to that more consistently. Now that was complicated. Let's be honest. That was complicated by Lane going down with what he thinks is a stinger. And all of a sudden, Matt Pryor played very poorly.
Oh man, he was bad.
They moved. So you had that sort of little lull. It was the 4 3 and outs. I mean, when you talk about you're as strong as your weakest link, when your right tackle is just incapable of doing anything, it kind of derailed things. And then they made the move to Fred Johnson, and Fred was able to calm things down. And so you can do a little tweak like that made all the difference in the world. And then all of a sudden you have some time to throw the football and do some different things. But most of it is just the personality of the game. And once they got going, and then they have this reputation, and it's well earned and well deserved, not only in house, because there are very few teams when you're playing like that, you're done, you're cooked. Most teams in the NFL,
Yeah, I agree.
they're cooked. But they can lean on, hey, we friggin' win this way, we win this way, we win this way. So they have this tremendous confidence that they're able to come back. We always talk about it. I always say that's Jalen Hurts' superpower, the
You've been
relentlessness.
talking about Jalen Hurts' resiliency for years on this show.
60-minute player. And sure enough, it showed up again. So, and then you have the human nature. I guarantee after that touchdown, in the third quarter, the Rams breathed a sigh of relief and said, all right, we got them. We got them now. And then comes that drive where I said, big go route, seam route, bang, bang, touchdown. Yep. And you could almost feel the doubt creeping into their minds. They're like, oh, shit. And then they get tight. Sort of the NFL. It happens all the time. But I always point back to Jim Schwartz because he's the one who told me every game's got a personality, every single one of them. And it's not only the Eagles. You see it all the time with teams go up and down the field. And they lose they play 3 bad quarters of football. And then all of a sudden, why? Everybody says, why? Where was that? Where was that? A lot of it's the psyche of the other team. But when they get going and they got going, it could be impressive throwing the football. And they were still in a position, the Rams, to steal the game with the Carty field goal. And then, what can you say about Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis on those blocked field goals? Now, the kicker went from being the special teams player of the week to being the GOAT, which is amazing because he did a tremendous job on the kickoffs and he's kicking all the field goals, but he was kicking it low and they saw it. And they did a good job, Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, of doing that. But again, man, I don't want to count on blocked field goals to win games.
No, I hear you. But I mean, I think that part of it was circumstantial where it was so bad in the first. I mean, -1 passing yards and 33 yards. I know you chirped the fans for booing, but you got those guys out there, John. This is Philadelphia, my friend. They're going to get booed when they got 33 yards in the first half or whatever the hell it was. But, I think because of that, they had obviously a big climb. And even with the dominant second half, the way that they played, they still needed the heroics of Jordan Davis to block the field goal. Man, what a game he had, John. He is all over the football field. We talked about the rundown of Stafford, obviously the return kick, which is the flash play. But I think even outside of the flash plays, he's playing good football in the interior of that defensive line. To me, he looks like the best Eagles defensive tackle right now. Jalen Carter is not quite up to something yet this year.
No, but I do think, you saw kind of, and I mentioned Jalen Carter, I think, deserves credit for setting the tone early for the Rams passing game, and that the fact that they were very concerned with the pass rush, even when it's not even about when it was there or when it wasn't there. They were very concerned. It was evident, and when you're apt to make mistakes. And again, there were a couple throws that Matthew Stafford makes in his sleep, and he didn't make them.
He just aired him. I don't even know
Yeah.
one of them. And
And
was
that's
so
because he's sped up and
right.
he's trying to hurry. And all of a sudden, you get out of sorts, and an easy completion turns into a fourth down field goal. So I think Jalen Carter deserves credit as well. But yeah, I mean, Jordan Davis, obviously, it seems like we've been talking about his weight and his conditioning since he got here. And it's always a conversation every offseason, and he said the right things and paid the lip service. But this year he really did it, and you could see it from just an eye test standpoint. He lost a ton of weight, but he's still, up over 330 pounds. He's always been able. I pointed back to that Buffalo game where he chased down Josh Allen. He's always been this incredible athlete. That's why he was the 13th pick in the draft, because he ran a 40 at his size. But that is the fastest anybody's ever gotten up to, over 330 pounds in an NFL game, returning that kickoff. At least, it's the next gen stats era, which is only about a decade or so, but still, it's pretty impressive, his athleticism.
Yep.
And he's been playing well. But, I don't want to overstate. Jalen Carter's still the key to that all.
No, I know that.
Inside.
I mean, he had that 4th and 1 stop as well behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, he had a great game. Yeah,
I just thought he had a really, really good
Probably going to be special teams player of the week. Can't be defensive player of the week because ex-Eagle Isaiah Rodgers did something nobody's ever done before. So he's going to be defensive player of the week. But, yeah, he's going to be special teams player of the week. I feel comfortable saying that. And, yeah, I mean, just a great performance. He's been great early in the season. And actually the Rams were pretty good running the football. So that, over the standpoint of the entire game, like, Kyren Williams had a pretty good game. And he didn't put the ball on the ground. And he had the Rams should have won that game because of Kyren Williams, I think. So he deserves credit. So I think they did a pretty good job, actually. But yeah, Jordan Davis has had a great early season. And by the way, this is the toughest part of the Eagles' schedule, and they're 3-0. I firmly believe that. I said it before the season. I said, this is the toughest part of their schedule going into Tampa. And Tampa's down a bunch of offensive linemen. I don't know who's going to play, who isn't going to play. They're not playing well, even though they're 3-0. They've come back in the last couple minutes in every single game. So they're living in that same margin of error the Eagles are. And the balloon is going to break for one of those teams next week. But even if the Eagles do lose that game, I mean, they got the Giants coming up twice. It eases up.
Yeah.
After Tampa.
I think you have Denver, New York. I forget who's week 7, and then New York again in week 8. I think that's how it goes.
Well, that's part of the problem, though, because New York is wholly ineffective offensively, and you might get a couple plays by Malik.
You got Minnesota, that's right, in week 7.
And who knows? And that's another team. So you got defense. Like, the Giants have nothing on offense. You're going to win both games because, but they could be ugly. Denver, strength of their team is their defense. Minnesota, they're playing Carson Wentz. Strength is Brian Flores in that defense. So it's like,
I think Carson Wentz, I think they put up a 48 burger yesterday or something. I forget.
Well, they did, but they had 2 defensive touchdowns.
Yeah.
I mean, so I mean, they both came from Isaiah Rodgers, by the way.
Isaiah Rodgers.
So when people start shitting about, you'll hear of the Isaiah, because he's going to be defensive player of the week. But
John, real quick, we're going to get to Jeff Kerr, who's in the green room. We love talking to Jeff on a Monday morning. Last question, though, John. Did Kevin Patullo finally wake up Johnny Mack in the second half? I mean, I tell you what, that was like a different looking offense entirely.
That's amazing. How can people take a step back and say, hey, maybe it is the personality of the game instead of, oh, the guy's an idiot for 30 minutes and then he turns into Sean McVay in the last 30 minutes?
Maybe when they are as conservative as they were, John, it is pretty stupid. Like A.J. Brown said, we have killers.
Then blame it on the head coach. Don't blame it on the coordinator, because the head coach sets that tone. And that's the way he wants to play the team. And by the way, I want to talk about Nick Sirianni, because when everybody talks about, and we can bring up Jeff whenever, because if he wants to talk about this,
I just want to wrap it because I'm going to take the segment.
If you asked 100 people in this league, forget about Jalen Hurts, you might get some people taking Jalen Hurts over this quarterback. That's good. I think if you talk to 100 people in this league outside the NovaCare complex, who's the better coach? They'd all say Sean McVay. Every fucking one of them would say Sean McVay. And every fucking one of them is group thinking wrong. The guy can't beat Nick Sirianni. He's the most overrated coach in football. Everybody's obsessed with scheme. Nick Sirianni said it last week. Players, plays, formations. It's about the players first, not fucking Sean McVay's scheme, not Kevin Patullo's scheme, not Nick Sirianni's scheme. Build your team around the talent you have. All I know is the guy beats the shit out of Sean McVay every single time, and it ends up, even when he's got a 26-7 lead and he's in the freaking, easy pass lane, he can't get through it.
Too conservative, John. He's a shrimp when it comes in those big moments.
And then we call it, whether he's too conservative or not, because they say the same thing. I don't care what people say. He's a better football coach, and nobody knows it because they're all in this groupthink hive. Oh, what a scheme. I don't give a shit about your scheme. Change your scheme because your quarterback's 37 years old.
Well, the scheme's not bad, but you got a 4th and 2 to put the Eagles to bed. You can't just kick a field goal there. Come on, Sean. But I agree with you overall.